Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Film, the series where I talk to a variety of different people about their love of film and what sparked it in the first place. And today I'm joined by writer and filmmaker Billie Melissa. Billie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh no, I hate when people like introduce yourself and I'm like, let me just get out my pitch deck of myself. You said it, I'm a writer and a filmmaker. I call myself a journalist and a filmmaker. Because I do documentary and fiction and also write about film. I just love movies. Any way that I can be around them, I will be around them.
I mean, you've been delving right in there with the films recently because you've just come from Cannes and you're currently doing Sundance London at the moment. So
I'm tired.
how was Cannes? That's the first thing I kind of want to ask. How was Cannes? Because I've always been intrigued to go, but it's always kind of seemed a bit daunting to me.
I Yeah, I when was the last time I went to an international festival? I think it would have been Toronto, but I was living in New York, so it wasn't really international for me. I
Hmm.
kind of forgot like the toll it takes on you mentally and physically because
Mm.
like I don't know, it was really dreamy. It was like everything that you think it would be, like really extravagant, really just like, but what I don't realize, or what I didn't realize, is like obviously most festivals are public, so people
Yeah.
can buy tickets and go to them, but you can't. Like it's exclusively industry only. So if you don't have a pass, you can't do anything.
Oh.
Yeah, so that element of it was really prevalent.
Mm.
And I don't know. I thought it was a really great experience, but it was definitely something that I was looking at and I was just like, oh, this is really scary actually. And I don't do well like being really warm and overstimulated, of which like both
Mm.
of those are like top of the list in Cannes. But no,
Mm.
it's amazing like seeing that like being part of that history or like getting to see it like happen in real time is really
Mm.
special. And like Megalopolis was playing, and like I'm so grateful to have been present for like a
Mm.
Francis Ford Coppola film in the year 2024. Like there are so many moments where I was like, whoa, like this is
Mm.
crazy that this is happening. And like yeah, so it's a bit of a mix. I think that
Mm.
happens with all festivals though. Like it's just a
Mm.
mix of like, wow, this is the best thing ever, and oh my gosh, I'm so stressed.
Yeah, I've been because the only festival I've one of the only festivals I've ever done is London because
I
it's the
think
big
it's
one in the
great.
UK.
I love London. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's I think because I've done it for like the last few years, there's now like a routine to it, and it just
Hmm.
feels, especially because of the amount of people that we both collectively know that attend it as well. There's like a
Hmm.
communal
Yeah, it's
feeling to
nice.
London as well, whereas I find literally any other festival outside of the UK rather daunting.
Yeah, my
um,
favorite festival is Toronto. Toronto
mm,
is the best. Oh, it's just the best. I will honestly like, yap about it for hours. It is the best. That is just my like peak. But I know a lot of people like love Venice, and I did enjoy Venice. But
mm,
yeah, Toronto and London just has a nice vibe because, like you said, it's like communal.
mm.
Everybody knows each other. It's just a good time.
Yeah, I always am tempted to. I always really want to do Toronto, and I'm tempted by Venice, but I'm worried I'm just going to fall in the water, like between films. I feel like that's just going to happen.
Between films, not likely, but like traveling on the boat, you might. But just
Yeah.
stay inside of the boat. Don't go outside. It's worth it. It's like I went in 2019,
Mm,
and that was my first ever international festival, and it's great. This is a good vibe because it's on
mm,
like the Lido, which is like south of Venice, so it's like that whole island is just a festival.
mm.
So it's just like festival vibes everywhere.
Cool. Like I'll note that because I've asked. I I've never been to an international one, but I've asked different people about like what's Cannes like, what's Venice like, what's
Hmm.
can never remember the German one, Berlinale. Is that
Berlin.
right?
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't like Berlin. If anyone from Berlin is listening, I didn't say that, but I do not like
Yeah,
Berlin.
with that you didn't hear that here.
No,
Uh,
I loved it. It was great.
so I just want to start off by asking, and again, because you've attended these festivals recently, I'll be intrigued to see what you say. But what is the most recent film you've seen that you absolutely loved? It can be an old release or a new release. What's the first thing that kind of springs to mind?
See, when you asked, or when I had like the questions sent over pre-prepared, I was like, I'm really gonna have to think about that. But I just saw the best thing that I've seen this year at Sundance London,
Mm,
and I just want to talk about it all the time. It was called My Old Ass, and
mm,
it was so good. I had no expectation, and like I was sobbing, I was laughing, like Aubrey Plaza is in it, and then
mm,
I'm blanking on everybody else's names. It's really bad, but like it was just incredible. It was so wholesome and sweet, and I hadn't felt that moved by something
mm,
in so many months, and I've just been sat waiting to feel like that again. And oh my gosh, and everyone felt the same. Like it was the first film they played for the press, and I was like,
mm.
don't even bother showing anything else now because you've shown the best that you have. Like you cannot improve on that. And oh my goodness,
Mm.
I can't wait until it comes out. I want to rewatch it over and over and over again. But I was sobbing aggressively because it's so like heartbreaking, but it's great.
Funnily enough, I've had this conversation with a few different people, but like outside of maybe like two films this year, nothing's yet to like really
No,
get me emotionally or
no.
like really connect with me. And even my favorite film of the year, which is Doom Part 2,
Mm.
I loved it for the scale, but like didn't really get me on an emotional level. And I'm really waiting for just a film to come along and rip my heart out.
When you see My Old Ass, we'll
mm,
talk because yeah, up until this point, I genuinely was like, I have things that I've liked and things that like I
mm,
think have resonated with me, but this was like
mm,
oh, that feeling. It's like the feeling that you want from a
mm.
movie. Like it gave that and like more. It was
Yeah.
great. It
I
was so
think
good.
I think the only two films that have kind of, well, I say they came close. They made me emotional in the moment. Probably the Ironclaw and Robot Dreams are
Yes,
like the two
both of
closest.
those. Yeah. That one
Yeah.
of them would have been my answer for you had I not seen Robot Dreams. You should have seen my face after I was sat there like this. Why did they do that?
Yeah. It's just
Why did they do that?
for
It's
no one,
evil.
for anyone who's not seen Robot Dreams, which I presume is like a lot of people, because like
Mhm.
I've talked to some people who just have not heard of the film full stop.
No, it came out for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's honestly like it's phenomenal. Like it starts off really cute and adorable, but then
Mhm.
by the end you're just like you're never going to listen to Earth, Wind and Fire the same way again.
And it put me
By
in a
the end of
bad mood. I was in a bad mood for like 3 hours. I was like, why would you do something so awful? Oh, yeah, honestly, I was meant to go see it again on Sunday.
mm,
And I was going to take my husband to see it, and we didn't
mm.
go, but like, I'm so glad I didn't go because I don't think I'm ready. I only saw it like last month or something, and I'm still recovering.
Yeah, I've been debate because I watched it as a screener for a review, um, and I'm like, since it's become again available on video on demand, I'm like,
Mhm.
do I put myself through it again? I
It's
don't
so good,
know.
but it hurts so bad.
Ah,
I think
it's
it's like a once a year affer. Like I'll go back to it
yeah.
next year and then I'll like be like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah, the same goes for the Iron Claw on that one. I think also
Hmm.
because of its length, it's
So
just
good.
like I loved everything about it, but I'm probably not going to watch it for like a good
It
another couple of
hurts.
years because
It
it
hurts.
takes your heart, stomps on it, and then just pats it back in, and it's like, what did you do?
Honestly. I that was one. And also I watched Anatomy of a Fall for the first time this
Hmm.
year. So that also would have been one of my answers because that was fantastic.
I
But yeah, Iron
still need
Claw,
to
Robot
watch that.
Dreams. Oh my gosh, wait until it's in a cinema because if I'd
Hmm.
watched it at home, I don't think I would have loved it as much as I did.
Hmm.
Um, but she was amazing. She's my best actress for this year. Just her performance was next level.
To start things off, I wanted to kind of because, like you said, you're not just a writer, you're a filmmaker as well. And I want to kind of dive into that a little bit because I'm an amateur filmmaker myself and I want to kind of pick your brains a little bit in terms of just filmmaking in general and how you approach it. Um, and the first question I kind of want to delve into that is what made you want to pursue filmmaking and writing in the first place? Was it a passion for one that kind of veered into the other, or did they just kind of both, happen?
By writing, do you mean writing about film or just
Yeah, yeah.
writing
I
in
want to.
general?
I want to specify that, like, that difference, the writing about
Hmm.
film rather than the writing of film because I kind of
Yeah.
want to put them
I
to
mean, my filmmaking journey is really annoying and really long story, so I'm gonna like shorten it as much as
the
possible.
abridged version.
Yeah, like I need to, because I need to find a succinct way, because I'm like telling people and I sat for like 20 minutes, like, can you get to the part? So for filmmaking, I came to it, there was a season of my life where I was really depressed and anxious for like the first time in my life. I was kind of dealing with that, like mental health struggle. And the only place I could go, because I lived in Essex and like a smallish town in Essex, and the only place they really had was like the bowling alley and the cinema. So I
Mm,
was like, well, it's the cinema then, because like for the three, like 2, 3 hours, like no one can contact you. You can't
mm,
like check your phone. Like people can't be bothered. Like you can't really be mad at yourself for doing something else because like you're watching a film and like,
mm,
that's what you're there to do. Um, and so I would just end up there like 3 times a week because it was the only place where that would like
mm,
all those like emotions would stop. And then I saw I like film up
mm,
until that point. Like I studied it. I studied it at A level. But it just wasn't something I wanted as a career because honestly, like I didn't know anyone who was in the film industry. It just seemed
yeah.
very like untouchable. But then I'd seen his previous works. I know he's a problematic person, but he's part of my journey, so I have to talk about him.
Yeah.
I'd seen Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle.
Mm,
And then Joy came out in 2016. It came out New
yeah.
Year's Day. And I saw that, and it just felt like my life being reflected back to me
Mm,
because, like, like, obviously on an extreme scale, because she's a single mother, I don't have a child. But like, she was really deeply unfulfilled in the
mm,
work that she was doing, and like, she had like created something that she was really proud of, and that she like could help other people with. And for me, like film became that thing of like, oh, it helps you reflect on your own life and process your own emotions
mm,
privately, because like film is like a private way to reflect on things. Like you don't have to talk about it with anyone. It's not like therapy. You're not like, it's like a personal thing.
yeah.
And so after that, I applied for film school. And I got in, and I got a scholarship because it was too expensive. It was a private film school,
Mm,
and I wouldn't have been able to go without that. Um, and I studied there for 3 years, and this is how I got into film writing because
okay.
part of the film course, there was like a 6 month summer break,
Mm,
and I was like, what am I going to do for 6 months? And I wanted to still be thinking about film and articulating what does and does not work for me, because I think like as a director, writing about film is really important because it helps you articulate to yourself what is working for you in a movie and what isn't working for you, and then like therefore you know what lessons to be taking
yeah.
from it. So I started a blog, and just was posting stuff there, which then like completely took off and in a
Mm,
completely unexpected way because it was not the intention of it. And then yeah, that's how I ended up where I am now. I guess I just didn't stop doing the two together because I think like
mm,
the opportunities that come from it
mm,
are really beneficial for you as a filmmaker, because like festivals, you get to go and watch so much stuff for free. No one's asking you to pay for anything, and they're like actually inviting you to do these things. So for me, it's just a really great way to see like so much stuff,
mm,
and stuff that you wouldn't normally see or wouldn't normally pick.
mm.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the abridged version. I'm really sorry. That was really long.
No, it's all right. It's fascinating because I to be honest, now that I think back on the question, it's like I can't really think of an example where someone would like get into filmmaking first and then get a passion for film off the back of it. It's 9 out of 10 times. At least that's how I got into it. I kind of
Mhm.
developed a passion for film, loving first, and then
Yeah.
off the back of it, I was like, how do they make that? I want to know. And then the more I
Mm.
found out about the making of it process, that kind of in
Mm-hmm.
turn kind of gone, hang on a minute, I've got all these ideas, vice versa. Then you study about it and then you learn it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is quite interesting in that sense. And again, going back to festivals, it is there are so many films, like you said, that you wouldn't necessarily think you would want to watch, and then you end up
Mm-hmm.
watching them, and they end up being like your favorite film of the year. And it's
Yeah.
the best thing about doing a festival, especially if you do it properly, like for a if it's a 2 week one, if you
Hmm.
dedicate like a week to it or something, you can. I think I even said this in the previous episode, but you get tonal whiplash. Like you could
Hmm.
see a
Hmm.
drama one. I think in 2022 I saw The Whale at press screening, and then right after was Bros, and and it was the most like,
That's why
yeah.
to program that.
I mean, I ended up loving both, and I didn't know
Yeah.
what to I hadn't really heard much about Bros outside of like a couple of reviews,
Hmm.
and then I ended up finding it hilarious.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's definitely an interesting in one, and I feel like there are a lot of people that can kind of relate in terms of following that passion.
Yeah.
Um, and I also just wanted to ask off the back of that, looking at the writing about film perspective,
Hmm.
how do you generally approach like tackling something, whether it's a piece or a review? Do you have a set um not template, but is there like a specific way you go about it, or does it differ depending on the film that you're tackling?
I don't think I have an approach. Like I wish I was like, I have this really great method, but I don't. It's usually for me like I take from the emotional sentiment and how it
Mm,
made me feel. Um, and oftentimes like navigate from that perspective
yeah.
because like I know there's been big debates recently about don't be so personal as a film critic, blah, 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 and it's like, well, how can we
Mm,
not? Like that's what we're navigating from. Like we're coming from our own lived in experience of the world. So that's like how I approach writing.
mm,
I make notes. I don't get people who don't, especially during festivals. I'm like, where's
mm.
that information going? Because I'm a note taker. I'm annoying and I have a clicky pen and I need to get one with the lid so that I stop like I'm like always like doing it underneath my like things to not to annoy people. But I usually like I note a lot of quotes in films, like if
Mm,
quotes speak to me, and then like I kind of reflect upon like, oh, how did that make me feel? Or like why did that stand out for me?
yeah.
And also a lot of films, whether they seem it or not, are political.
Mm,
And I have very strong political views. So I especially like obviously Civil War is like the overt example of that. Like I
yeah.
think there's always something like to dig into there. So whether it's personal or political, the two combined, like that's usually where I'm
Mm,
now. If I don't if a film isn't making me feel either one of those things, then I'm likely to just not write about it because I can't stand like just writing something for the sake of it. I don't write negative reviews like
yeah.
intentionally because as a filmmaker, like I know how much work goes into doing it, and like just because I didn't like it, unless it's
Yeah.
harmful, as in like a film that's actually like peddling bad viewpoints, then like
Mm,
I just feel the need to like not have to do
yeah.
that. So for whenever like I write a review, it's come from a place of absolute passion.
Mm,
Sometimes I have to like review the big releases for work purposes, and they
mm,
don't always stem that kind of like emotion from me. Those are way harder to write.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, there's nothing more satisfying than like working out why you loved a film. It's kind of like therapy in a way. Should probably just go to therapy as like the message of this
Nah,
podcast.
films are better.
It feels like it. It feels much more like safe.
Mm. No, I'm so glad you said all of that, because as you were saying everything, I kind of just I'm in the same boat a little bit. So I've been doing this channel for 9 years,
Oh wow.
and yeah, it feels like I've been doing it for way longer.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only been writing professionally in the last year or so, so I was very late to the game, and I'm gradually still getting used to everything.
Mm-hmm.
But with how I tackle my YouTube videos, and again, I think I've reiterated this multiple times on this series, but I am now in a place where I only talk about the films I want to talk about. If it's an
Yeah.
old release or a new one that means something to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I, because there was a rut where I was reviewing just all the new releases, and a lot of them ended up just
It's
being,
draining.
yeah, a lot of them ended up just being fine, and I don't really have much to say about it because they're just like middle of the road
It's exactly that, yeah.
average. And unless you get like a really bad or a really good film where you have something to say,
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of seemed a bit pointless. So a few years ago I shifted gears, and now I'm in the same mindset as you. I only talk about the films I want to talk about. If it's a new release, I only talk about ones that I distinctly had something connect with me, or even if it's one I wasn't that keen on, I try and find something to latch from it.
Hmm.
Um, and again, going back to what you said about the writing, everything I've written, I haven't written much, but everything I've tried to write, I always try and put like some bit of a personal angle in there.
Hmm.
Funnily enough, Civil War is one of the films that I have written a review for, and I found it really tricky because I didn't want to go too overtly political with it. Because I
But
was
you
like,
have to. It's literally titled Civil
yeah,
War. Like,
because I mean, it was more just in the case of like, well, if I write this in one way, I'm gonna annoy like these people, but if I write it this way, I'm going to annoy these people. So I tried to keep it neutral in the sense that like the film's very neutral and doesn't pick a side. There, cool. Okay, that saved me. On to the next point. But
there's
yeah,
so much to say. Honestly, I could talk about Civil War for like 3 hours.
yeah,
So I'm gonna
it's a
stop there.
fantastic film. If another film recommendation, if you've not seen Civil War, go and see it. I think it's on digital now. Can't think of it.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. And again, with the personal aspect, funnily enough, it will probably be out by the time this episode goes out, but I'm in the process of writing a piece that is probably the most personal I've ever written. I try
Mhm.
not to put like, first person perspective into it, but I'm on the autism spectrum. And for ages, I've been wanting to try and write a piece that's about representation of autism in film
Oh,
because
amazing.
I feel like it's something that one doesn't get talked about, and two,
Mm.
like there you can either go for like bad examples or good examples, and it's
Hmm.
trying to find that sweet spot. And I've
Hmm.
managed to somehow put two and two together, and I was like, hang on, there's a film that tackles that's celebrating an anniversary this year. I can now tie it into that. Cool, perfect.
Oh,
And
great.
I've been writing it today, and it is honestly like it got more personal than I wanted it to, and it was like, whew,
But
I'm put.
that's a good thing. That
Yeah.
really resonates with people, I feel like. I feel like every time I've like pushed myself to be just a little bit like almost too personal,
Mm,
that is when it has like landed with people and people have like actively reached out to me to say something about it. And that
mm.
comforts me and them in return to be like, oh, I'm not the only person feeling this way.
Yeah, I also don't know about you, but there's a sense of catharsis to it as well.
100%. Yeah, I write so much stuff that I don't
Mm.
publish. Like there's tons and tons of words on my laptop that nobody will ever see.
So going from your writing about film to the writing and making of films, I wanted to kind of pick your brains in terms of what attracts you to the ideas you tackle in your films, because so far you've released two films, well,
Yeah,
one and then
one's
yeah.
out and one's about to be out.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, there's a short film that came out at the start of the year called "I Love You Guys," which is fantastic. There will be a link to it in the
Thank you.
description. Please go and watch it. And the other one is a documentary that is yet to come out. So I'm intrigued to kind of see, because you've done one non-fiction piece and then you got the documentary. I'm intrigued to kind of see what your thought process was in terms of like how did you develop the ideas for the I Love You Guys, and how did you settle on like that's the thing I must cover for the documentary?
Yeah, I mean, for me, film in general, like whatever attracts it to me as like a viewer or a maker is
Mm,
like personal and compassionate because I think film is the medium that reaches the most people
mm,
that everybody can watch and feel like they can identify with. Like we give ourselves permission to identify with people who are not like us at all.
yeah,
Or, we can start to understand more perspectives and more points of views about the world. And I think it makes us, I think if a film isn't making you a better, more compassionate, more empathetic person, then there's kind of no need for it whatsoever.
yeah,
So that's for me as a filmmaker, like that's what I'm seeking out. I didn't write I Love You Guys.
mm,
So like what stood out for me in the script was
mm,
the mental health aspect obviously was huge. That was my journey into film, was dealing with
yeah,
mental health. So and it's something so widely experienced, especially
mm,
like across the UK and across the world. Everybody's dealing with it.
yeah,
And I think that like um interestingly, like the film took years to make. It took
mm,
from when I got the script to when it got posted online was like 4 years. 5 years. If it came out this year, yeah, 5 years.
Yeah.
So I got it in April 2019, and it came out in, I think, March
Yeah.
2024. And over time it evolved its meaning for me. It's now like about to me less about mental health and more about like dreams, and how like you arrive at your dream so like
Mm.
expectant, and it's nothing like what you wanted it to be. And that's like really resonant in my life because I moved to New York. It was my biggest dream ever since I was a tiny, tiny girl, and got there and it was the worst experience of my life. Like I've never been more miserable. Like I've never been more depressed. I've never been more unwell.
Mm.
Um, and that happens to everybody. I feel like it's something we get scared to talk about because you're told to be grateful and you're told to just like really, just be like so grateful for all of these things that are happening. And you should be grateful, yes, but you should also be realistic with yourself and honest. So
Mm.
I think that anything that makes us more human, and with the documentary, it's about a man on federal death row with
Mm.
an innocence case. And I do a lot of work in death penalty spaces, a lot of it that like I don't even like post about online. But
Mm.
for me, that is about like identifying with people whose lives are completely different to mine, and yet we are the exact same. Like the
Mm.
guy that the film is about, he loves film and
Mm.
he loves music and he's an artist and he paints, and like I have more in common with him than some people like I've known my entire life. And that's a gift that only film can bring and
Yeah.
filmmaking can bring, is like bringing you closer to people who you're just never ever ever going to meet.
Mm.
And then like when we have that, we get to look at people as human beings. Like for example, with Billy Allen, when he was on trial, he was referred to in the media as like an evil wicked maniac and a
Mm.
murderous dog, and you'll see in our film that he's just neither of those. Like
Mm.
it's language is so important and it takes away people's humanity.
Yeah.
And movies gives them the narrative back to be like, actually that's, I'm a human just
Mm.
like you. So that's really like what attracts me to any kind of idea. If it's not doing that, I'm just not interested, like watching it or making it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can, especially with don't want to get too political again, but like with media in especially the States,
Mhm.
it can be very much a case of a lot of examples of the kind of thing you said, where the media makes someone out to be this horrible individual that's, imprisoned for this reason.
Mhm.
And then you watch like these documentaries on ITV where it's like, hang on a minute, no, they're just they're nothing like what the media goes at. And unfortunately, compared to the UK, media in America can be very uh, overblown, is a good way to put it.
Yeah,
Like very over exaggerated,
sensationalized. Yeah.
yeah. And I feel like that doesn't help necessarily when you get to very touchy subjects like
Mhm.
that. Um, I can imagine that was quite a hard process to make that film as well, considering the scenario that this person was in.
Yeah, I mean, I get told that a lot of people are like, oh, it must be so difficult. And I'm like, honestly, like,
Mm.
yes, but like these people are the most generous, most kind,
Mm.
most like open, graceful people that I've ever met in my entire life. Like
Mm.
everyone who's in the documentary, like I can't believe the week I had in St. Louis. Like everyone was
Yeah.
so generous. Like not even people in the film, just strangers on the street. Like if we would stop and tell them the story, because they'd be like, why are you filming?
Yeah.
And I was always like kind of cautious because I was like, oh, I don't know, like you have the death
Mm.
penalty in the States. Like, I don't know if you're like really, but I eventually
Yeah.
I gave up that like God and told everybody the story.
Mm.
And everybody wanted to help, everybody wanted to know more. Like they couldn't believe that
Mm.
this had happened. And it's really about like proximity to issues, and like you have to be physically close. Like Brian Stevenson talks about this a lot. Whenever
Yeah.
he does talks, is like you have to be close to an issue, because otherwise you can just pretend it doesn't exist and you can just like turn your blinders on and like it
Yeah.
doesn't exist around you. So is it difficult? Like it's difficult in the sense that like it's a horrible issue, but
Mm. Mm.
the people are the like gift it has given me as a person, like just as like expanding my like worldview, and just like I'm in awe of them. Like
Yeah.
the level of relentlessness and resilience that they have is just something I will never have in my entire life. And what a gift
Mm.
to have spent a week around people who do have that and are willing to share that with me was
Mm.
just, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough, and I don't blame you because did you film all of it within that singular week?
Yes, we went Monday
Mm.
to Monday in St. Louis, and then
Mm.
we filmed in New York State and Washington, D.C., and we filmed a couple of things over Zoom. And we filmed in Illinois for like 5 minutes. We went over the bridge and came back.
Fair enough.
St. Louis is literally right on the border, and there's like one bridge, and we thought that like there's a part of the river that we wanted to film, and we had to go over the bridge, and then like we
Yeah.
got there, and I was like, oh, actually, it's on the other side of the bridge, so we came back. But I got to say I was in Illinois for 5 minutes, so
Fair enough.
ticked another state off my bucket list.
Love that. So I just kind of wanted to ask as well, and again, this is primarily to do with the two projects, the one that's currently out and the one that's in the works.
Mhm.
But I thought it'd be interesting just to apply it generally as well in terms of like your ethos towards filmmaking. And I was intrigued to know who slash what would you say are some of your biggest filmmaking influences? And again, I'd be interested to see if you have specific ones that kind of helped with preparing you for making a documentary, and if you had others that kind of prepared you for making I Love You Guys.
Yeah, I mean, for I Love You Guys, the films we spoke the most about were Silver Linings,
Mm,
I, Tonya, and Her.
yeah.
And those three were like, we were always coming back to those three films
Mm,
because Silver Linings does so well. We're talking about a variety of mental health issues and like making everybody's seem
yeah.
like it's not their like complete personality, like it's just there under the surface.
Yeah.
And with I, Tonya, like is another coming up through the works story, like an
Mm,
underdog story in a way. And Her was really about the visual language of loneliness,
yeah.
and the way that they use a lot of like crowds and
Mm,
particularly for us like skyscrapers. Like I really
mm,
pushed for the hotel scene to be shot at night.
yeah.
They were like, oh, we could cheat and like close the curtains. I'm like, no, I need the skylines because I
Yeah.
need you to see that there's like other people living their lives around her, but she
Mm,
feels so alone.
mm, mm,
So those are the three that we spoke about for that. For the documentary, we didn't actually have any that we were like consistently returning to. I don't have a lot of documentary filmmaking influences.
mm,
For me, that like whole process comes from more of being like a very curious person.
yeah.
Um, and so, but like I do love a few documentary filmmakers. I really love Nick Broomfield's work.
Mm,
Um, I like that he used to be more of a Louis Theroux style filmmaker and that he was in the narrative and like making the film was part of
yeah.
the story. But now he's kind of stepped behind camera and he does a lot of like he did a few musical bio or like musical documentaries that were like
Yeah.
personal. So I kind of like the way that he approaches that like hybrid of personal and still making it informative.
Mm,
But outside of that, my general filmmaking influences, of course, are Greta Gerwig because
yeah.
she is everything to all
Yeah.
women my
Yeah.
age, filmmakers, I'm sure. And David O. Russell, unfortunately, is one of my biggest influences. I love the way that he is so compassionate to all of his characters.
Yeah.
um I think that like even if someone is doing something bad or wrong, like you can kind of understand why.
Mm,
But Mike Mills is a huge influence on me for the way he
yeah.
utilizes multimedia.
Mm,
I think he does an excellent job of making every film so like tangible and like you can touch it, and like
yeah.
the way he makes the world look, I just want the
Mm,
world to look like that all the time. And he's also a very like empathetic,
yeah.
compassionate, interested, curious filmmaker. And so like humanity just like seeps out of his work. And like
Mm,
so I'm always coming back to his, if I'm ever in like a slump where I'm like, oh, I can't do this anymore, like watching 20th Century Women just like takes everything away because
yeah.
I'm like it's just magic, like it's just magic on screen.
Yeah. As soon
Yeah.
as you said that, funnily enough, because I think you tweeted about 20th Century Women the other day,
Yeah,
and
I'm always tweeting about 20th Century Women.
as soon as you tweeted that, because I think it was like a quote thing about like what's a film that is universally
We
loved,
don't
but
appreciate enough.
yeah, and
Yeah.
as soon as you posted that, I was like, I absolutely adore that film. More people need to either watch it or
Right.
talk about it because I think I went during like one of the years of lockdown. I went through a massive spat of like just trying to tick as many films off as possible,
Hmm.
and that wasn't a film on my radar, but it was on I think BBC iPlayer, and I just watched it for the hell of it, and I was like,
Hmm.
"This is phenomenal.
It's beautiful
It's
work.
so good." And
It's
then
stunning.
like I didn't like Come On as much,
I
but
loved Come On, Come
I
On.
I
I
don't think
loved it.
I still really like it, but the thing is, like, I was expecting another
Yeah.
20th Century Women, so I presume if I watch Come On again, it would probably just immediately click.
Hmm.
But yeah, I can now that you mentioned those two films and especially her, I can definitely thinking back to the short film, I can definitely see those influences a bit more,
Hmm.
especially in the hotel room sequences. Because as soon as you said her, I was like, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, there were shots that I was showing my cinematographer where I
Mm.
was like, this. Oh, and also surprisingly, actually, Elvis was a big influence for us because
Okay.
we shot the film in three blocks,
Yeah.
and the concert stuff we shot last. So every bit where
Mm.
she's singing, like that was done. That was the final thing we did.
Mm.
And Elvis came out like the week before
Mm.
we shot
Mm.
it, and I like sent all of the pictures to the cinema. I was like, this is what I want, this because it's just so. I think Baz Luhrmann, everything.
Mm.
He's actually a big influence for me as well. Like the way him and Damien Chazelle just have a visual language that I'm really
Mm.
interested in. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen. I never really saw it personally until I saw like I still haven't watched Babylon, but I've seen clips. No,
Oh,
I know it's the one
oh,
that it's the one Damien Chazelle film I've not seen.
it's
Um,
so brilliant.
but I a lot of people were comparing him to Baz Luhrmann, and I was like, I don't personally
Mm.
see it. And then I saw more clips from Babylon, and I'm like, okay, that mixed with the stuff he did on La La Land, especially with
Mm.
that iconic behind the scenes clip where he's tapping the guy on the shoulder and he's like, going back
Mm-hmm.
and forth. I'm like, okay, now I see it because I think at the time I'd rewatched Romeo plus Juliet, and I'm
Yeah.
like, they've got such a knack for just
Energy.
it's a little
There's
bit like
energy.
yeah, it's a little bit like Edgar Wright, but it's more intense.
But more controlled in a way. Like I feel
Yeah,
like it's controlled chaos, whereas some filmmakers go off the handle a bit. But
yeah,
both of them, like it's art, like it is
mm,
specific. It is very much like
mm.
this is what we're doing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, I definitely agree, and especially with Baz Luhrmann, it's a style that you either love or hate, and I've come to love it more over the years because it's in your face, but
it's just
everything's
magic.
everything's purposeful as well. And
Yeah.
again, that's the same with Damien Chazelle because,
Hmm.
like you said, some directors can kind of get carried away with the style.
Hmm.
Zack Snyder. Um,
Sorry, Zach.
yeah, sorry. You're probably a lovely guy, but sorry. But there are other filmmakers like Damien Chazelle and Baz Luhrmann where it's controlled style to the point where like you can tell what they're trying to do, and it's
Hmm.
for a reason. And yeah, as soon as you said half those influences, I was like, I can see them. And again, with the documentary thing, it's quite interesting hearing that you didn't really have many influences going into it, because I think it's just a second nature because I always presume there's like stuff that when someone's making something, there's like things that you kind of take from like the documentary that I made that came out at the start of the year. I'm a sucker for a music documentary, and I had a
Hmm.
list of about like three or four that I was like picking different bits from in terms of like it's taking these elements from the Beatles one that came out a few years ago. It's taking elements from this Foo Fighters documentary and just kind of being a weird mishmash, but also being its own thing.
Hmm.
So yeah, I just found that quite fascinating.
Yeah,
Um,
I was also working with two other women.
mm,
So I'm one of three directors.
yeah,
And that is just generally difficult to find like a succinct
mm,
style. So I think what we were working more with was
yeah,
against other death penalty adjacent documentaries. Like this is very much about like the
mm,
human as
yeah,
opposed to the cases mentioned because it's actually a hybrid clemency video and
okay,
documentary in itself. So like we were
mm,
about like getting the humanity out.
yeah,
So we were kind of working against instead of working with influencers, we were working like this is what we don't want to do.
Yeah.
Like this is what we're not doing. But outside of that, it's a bit of a free for all out here.
Yeah. I also feel, and again, feel free to agree or disagree with me, but I feel like when you're making a documentary, a lot of it, at least I've got this anyway from the ones that I've done, is that you can go in with a set mindset of like, right,
It's always going to change.
yeah, I want it to
Yeah,
look like this, I want it to feel like this, and
and
then
it won't.
yeah, you film all of it, and then you get to the edit, and you're just like, oh, actually,
Hmm.
might be better if we do it this way, and it
That's
always,
exactly what happened with us.
yeah, and I always find that fascinating with documentary filmmaking is that like whereas with a non-fiction scripted thing, you've got a rough idea of where you want it to go and whether it
Hmm.
ends up looking like that, and it depends on how you end up making it.
Yeah,
But with a documentary, it changes every 5 minutes. It's like with the
yeah.
one I did, I just filmed what I could
Hmm.
and then just kind of left it all to the edit in terms of like I don't know what it's going to look like or feel like or flow.
Hmm.
The edit kind of will dictate that, and the end
Yeah.
result ends up being an hour and 12-minute documentary that really should have been cut down. But but it's
No.
I
Yeah.
there were times where I was like, I feel like I could cut this down a little bit more, but
No, I mean, for us also, like, because it's an active case,
mm,
but when we shot it in 2022,
mm,
um, where we were at then was urgent, but a lot less urgent because there's an
yeah,
upcoming election now. So we've got July, August, September, October. We've got 5 months,
yeah,
and it changes everything for him because if
mm,
Trump's elected again, he's 110% getting executed. There's
yeah,
no two ways about it. Like that's what's gonna happen.
mm,
So like we're really working with the like time. That was like when we got to the edit, and I told the editor, and he was wonderful and very patient with me
yeah,
because I was like, the thing is he just needs to, we just need his story. We just need to
mm,
know who he is. We need to know why he needs to come home, and we need to know the urgency.
yeah,
And that was like by that point, we'd gone in with a completely different idea. It was like a narrative about the campaign itself.
yeah,
But now it's like, no, like we need it to get to the president to show
mm,
that he is just a good person that a bad thing happened to and he needs to come home like
yeah,
yesterday.
yeah. No, I like that mindset because again, I've seen multiple examples of like documentaries where the thing they're making the subject about is constantly changing in the process of them trying to make it. I
Hmm.
can't. There's an example in my head, but I can't for the life of me think of what it's bloody called. But there are tons of examples where like they're constantly having to adapt,
Hmm.
and the end again goes back to that thing of like the end result is nowhere near what they originally planned.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what the example is. Oh, I think it. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a weird name for a document. It's called Tickled,
No, I don't think so.
where it's about. I think it was an Australian. He's normally a journalist, but then he
Hmm.
found out about this very odd like subculture online about competitive tickling, and he went to the States to then make this documentary about people that took part in it, and
That's so
then
interesting.
it
Like I'm gonna look that up.
it's a really fascinating documentary because it starts off as one thing because he's like, right, I'm just going to find out
Hmm.
what's going on. And then it opens up this rabbit hole about like these corrupt people that are actually running this competition as like a shady business.
That's so
And then it just gets
interesting.
even deeper and deeper with like people screwing over people in their own
Hmm.
family with like money issues. It just becomes a whole thing, and then they start going after the filmmakers while they're trying to make the film.
Hmm.
It's I love
I love when that
documentaries like that.
happens. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love when there's like a little bit of like an undertone. Yeah, I think Nick Broomfield's work is really like that in
Mm,
the sense that like because he's filming the process, like you get to see, and that's what I like about it because that's the
mm.
exciting thing about documentaries is they're so. I think Navalny used it as well, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
think I still need to watch that, but I've
so
seen
it's like
yeah,
a oh well, yeah, it's I mean it's
yeah,
even worse now because of everything that's happened since, but like
yeah.
yeah, that is like they show the process in that as well, and it's really
Mm,
interesting because obviously that is
mm.
for an audience really exciting.
So this one's quite a broad, well, not a broad question. This one's probably quite a tricky question considering the amount of stuff you've done, both with your journalism and also your filmmaking. if you can pinpoint one, what has been a career highlight for you?
Um, I mean, for me, it would be making the documentary. I'm really
Mm,
very much like a person who I don't ever look. I'm not a look backer and being like,
mm,
oh, well done. You look like you know. I don't. I just can't do. There's something in me that I just don't. Um, I'm not really. I can't do it. I don't know.
yeah.
Like I just. I never. I'm like. I'm always like. You've not done anything. You've done nothing. Like,
Mm,
how dare you? But like for me, the documentary, like making that
mm,
every night on like the drive back to the Airbnb was like I just felt so present
yeah.
and I felt like I was doing the thing that I was exactly like supposed to do at that exact moment. And I don't think I've ever felt that way since
Mm,
or before. Like,
okay.
so for me, it's 110% like just having spent that week in St. Louis and like
Yeah.
getting to experience the grace of people around me.
Mm,
You know, not even like the final product of having the documentary, it's like fully like that, like selfishly, it's the week I
yeah.
spent there and like
Mm,
the grace that I got like around me. That was just the best. That was
mm,
easily like, oh my gosh, like that's the best thing
mm,
I can imagine to have happened to me. And if I get to do that again, even
yeah.
once, I'll be so grateful because it was just, making documentaries is such a gift and
Yeah.
speaking with people all day, every day, and like
Mm,
people just surprisingly being nice to you. And like it's
mm.
the best of humanity in motion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And especially what you said at the start, where it's like, there are all these great things that have happened to me, but like, I just kind of look and go, like, nothing actually has happened.
I
I,
think we all do that, right? We're like, oh, I haven't done anything.
yeah,
How dare I? Like, how dare I take up space on this earth having done nothing? But it's not
yeah.
true. But there's something about it that I think just we can't
Mm.
allow ourselves to be like, I don't know.
I think it's especially, again, you can disagree or agree with this, but I think because we're both of a creative mindset, it kind of almost feels like you're either so busy worrying about like whatever the next thing might
Yeah.
be, or you're so encompassed with a specific thing, or
Yeah.
just life is busy. um,
That's a
that,
good way of putting it. I
yeah,
don't think I've ever looked at it like that, but that is very true. Like
mm,
your mind is always not in the present, which is why the documentary was so great because I had no choice but to be in that like
yeah,
specific moment.
yeah. I suppose that's a beauty for documentary filmmaking as well, because like with you spending that week in America, that was your life for that
Hmm.
week. And with mine, it was spending those 4 days in that studio with the band making their thing. That was what we were doing for those 4 days, and that just
Hmm.
became our life. Obviously, they were focused on making the album, but like that became everybody's main central goal,
Yeah.
and you just kind of get wrapped up in that, and everything else
Hmm.
is kind of secondary to that a little bit. You just
Hmm.
kind of get carried away.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's just
mm,
great. And also like
mm,
caring so deeply specifically about the issue for me and like
yeah.
being around other people who care deeply about that issue and being surrounded by community because a lot of the time like you're doing that work alone.
Mm,
Um, but like spending multiple days around people who also care about that issue is really grounding and important and healing because like you're allowed to take care of each other for,
yeah.
you know, that as well was
Mm.
a career highlight, a life highlight, and less of a career thing and more of just like a life highlight.
Yes. Screw the career. Let's talk
Yeah,
more life.
we too much people like spend wrapped up in their career. Let's do like life highlight.
I want to veer away from that and more talk about just your taste in film and how well, just your taste in film. I don't know where I was going with that. That's probably going to get cut. Um, and again, you've kind of already alluded to a couple of films that inspired you heavily throughout the years. But I just was kind of interested to know what, if you can remember, what was the first one of or the first film that sparked your love for cinema in the first place?
Sorry. Um, the first film. I don't know. I think Silver Linings Playbook was the first film I watched where I was like,
Mm,
I could see that it was made by people.
yeah.
I could see like human hands all over it. I could see that like it had
Mm,
been brought together. And also like it's about American football partially, which I love.
mm,
Um, So I think that that was like the first. I saw it when it came out because I loved Jennifer Lawrence,
Mm.
because I was a huge Hunger Games fan.
Oh, yeah.
So I followed her anywhere she
Yeah.
went, and she went to Silver Linings, and which was
Yeah.
wonderful. Um, but after that, I mean, I've had multiple
Mm.
different like I've had to have that like re-inspired. So like
Mm.
for me, the spark would have come from Silver Linings, and then the impetus to like act on that spark came from Joy, and
Mm.
then the persist on with it, keep going with it was when Lady Bird came out, because
Mm.
I was 2 years into film school at that point, and
Yeah.
the thing about film school is it reflects the industry because you're taught by people in the industry,
Yeah.
and the industry at that point, like Me Too hadn't happened,
Mm.
so it was all male. We were kind of like still normalizing abuse
Mm.
and still normalizing like some of the ideas that were coming out
Mm.
around me. I was like, this doesn't seem right. But then
Mm.
Ladybird came out and really did like coincide with a shift in the industry. And that
Mm.
film made me feel like I could be a
Yeah.
filmmaker. Because up until that point, like all my influences were male because I just didn't have any female filmmakers to look to. And now, like, it feels like
Yeah.
every week a new female director is like coming out with a great piece of work for
Mm.
us to love and enjoy. And it's just really encouraging to see how, like girls who are 18 years old now have a lot more option at the
Mm.
box office than I even did um like 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you know.
Mm.
um so I would say that they're my like three, and then Babylon again recently re-inspired
Mm.
my love for filmmaking because that
Yeah.
was just a great way to spend $100 million. I was like, there is no better way to have
Mm.
spent that other than Barbie.
Yeah.
Other than Barbie, you know,
Okay.
spending that amount of money, you know.
Okay.
I have a list, a huge list.
The one hint I'm taking from this video is that I need to watch Babylon at some point.
Honestly do, but also wait for it to come back to a cinema. Don't watch it at home.
Yeah.
I just don't think it would have the same effect.
Uh, Going what you said about there being a lot more female directors, especially in the last few years, I've
Mhm.
personally loved seeing that. Especially with last year, it felt like a good like if you went through most people's like top 20 films of the year, a good like 6-7% of that is women. Like you had Past Lives, you had Barbie, you had Are You There, God It's Me, Margaret. Like
What's
so many
that?
great films.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I just
It feels
love.
like more and more each year that's happening.
Yeah, yeah, and I honestly love seeing it because, like, at the end of the day, like anyone, well, I say anyone can make a film. You need the skills, obviously, but like
Mhm.
anyone can make a film. It's not just blokes. It's
Mhm.
not just
It's
men.
so much more interesting as well because it gives us so many like
Mm,
more world views to like for people to
mm.
feel represented in. It's nothing but good.
So, on the other end of the spectrum, I try and keep this channel as positive as I can, but I like throwing this question in every episode just because. What is one of or the worst film that you can recall that you've ever seen? And I know there's quite a lot of bad films out there, but
See,
if you can pinpoint one,
I saw this on your list of questions. I was like, I'm not answering it. I'm not answering it because I just am not, because like I have my answer
mm,
and no one will agree with me, and it will be like another podcast that you need to do separately.
okay,
Um, and I respect filmmakers wanting to do what they do. I'll say this instead of saying my worst
mm,
film, I'll say the thing I dislike the most about the film industry
yeah, sure,
is spending a lot of money. I really think it's unethical. I think it's a
yeah,
horrible way to make movies. I think
mm,
it's so like we've proven there's Moonlight, there's Lady Bird. We
yeah,
have all of these amazing films which are $10 million or less. We do not
mm,
need to spend that excessive amount of money. That wealth needs to
yeah,
be redistributed, and that's my
yeah.
political brand on your podcast.
No, that's fine.
I was like, I can't do a worse movie because
Mm,
as a filmmaker, I just can't. Like, it's
mm,
someone's child. It's like
yeah,
basically like me telling someone I don't like their child, and I think
mm,
that that is mean. But I can tell you my
mm,
industry ick is people spending a lot of money on movies that
yeah.
really don't have much going on for them. We should not be normalizing people spending 300 million
No,
on a movie
you know what? I
to make
think,
it twice.
yeah, yeah. You know what? I think a good recent example is something like Argyle. or
Oh,
like
how much did that cost again? Like 100 million.
uh, I don't know. I will Google that now.
I remember reading about that.
It was 200 million.
Apple, honey.
Yeah, you didn't need to spend that much. Like the film's fun,
Why?
but it's not 200 million worth.
No, I don't see. I just can't. It's too much money. Like that money would have been better redistributed elsewhere. Like I've got places that would love that money.
Yeah, you could
I know
like
people who need lawyers,
yeah.
people who need like to be able to afford
Mm.
groceries. We do not need to be making movie. Yeah, honestly, I would go on about it for hours. So I'm just gonna be quiet.
Anyway, before we make ourselves like very depressed from statistics, I'll move on to one of the last questions, which is the big one that I ask everyone, and it's the one that you were not looking forward to, because well, I just love asking this one because I say this every time. I love asking it because everyone's answers so far have been like drastically different and have had like they've all had their own reasons, whether it be sentimentality or you know, a logistical pick for the
Yeah.
point of question. But if you were stranded on a desert island and could only have five films with you, and why? What are you choosing?
I did not think about this as hard as I should have. I first of all Legally Blonde
Okay.
because I watch that every every night
Mm,
before I have to do something scary.
mm,
That is what I watch because I'm like, I just need to feel
mm.
the Elle Woods energy. So that would be good for maintaining the inner fire in
Yeah.
me. And then Mistress America, which is one of my favorite films,
Okay.
because the script is exact. Like I have never, when you like watch a film on your own and it's a comedy and like you're
Mm,
not really laughing because it's kind of weird to like sit and laugh by yourself. That one had me like scream laughing because it's precisely my humor in a
mm.
film, and I'd never seen it
Is
like
that Noah
depicted before.
Baumbach?
Yeah, with Greta
Yeah.
Gerwig
Yeah. I
in it.
thought so.
And Brooke Cardenas is like, I've never
Mm,
seen myself more represented on screen.
mm.
I was like, she is me, I am her, like we are one. So I would take that.
Mm-hmm.
20th Century Women because it's my favorite.
Yep.
And if I couldn't watch it, that would be the saddest world to live in.
Yep. Fantastic choice.
Um, two more. See, this is where I get stumbled. Maybe I'd have to pick one of Greta's films, but
Mm.
which one? Maybe Ladybird? Should I say Ladybird?
No.
Barbie? Barbie or Ladybird? Barbie's kind of like Legally Blonde. Okay, Ladybird.
For variety's sake.
Yeah. And then the final one. I would maybe take Just Mercy,
Mm.
because it really is one of my favorite films. It's a really difficult watch, and I don't think I would watch
Yeah.
it regularly, but I would have it to like hold and be
Mm.
reminded that like there is
Yeah.
good people doing good work.
Mm.
Um, I think it's like, yeah, it really altered my life and my past. Like I'd want to have it with me to be like just
Mm.
reminded of. And then if you ask me again next week, I will change your five answers.
Is Just Mercy the courtroom drama with Brie Larson in it?
Yeah, Brie Larson, Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx,
Yeah, I completely
directed
blanked on
by
Michael B. Jordan's name. I was just like, I know his face from Chronicle, but I can't for the life of me remember his name.
directed by Destin Daniel Cretton.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, honestly, that film, and it
Mm.
drives me crazy because Warner Brothers had it
Yeah.
and they fumbled it
Yeah.
on Joker, and it keeps me up at night.
I feel
It
like,
keeps me up at night.
I mean, again, this could be another side tangent we go on, but I feel like Dustin, what's his name again? Dustin.
Destin Daniel Cretton.
That's the one. It's a bit of a mouthful. I feel like most of the films he's made don't get the appreciation they deserve. Like
No.
Shang-Chi's great. Short Term 12 though
Mm-hmm.
is a fantastic little indie film that no like whenever I bring it up in conversation, no one's heard of it, and I'm like, how? How?
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. Um. Anyway, your five picks, I really like that, and again, it kind of proves the beauty of the question, which is that like you've given me like five completely different films. I love choice of Legally Blonde. I absolutely love that pick.
Now I'm
Uh,
panicking because what will I do without American Hustle? It's like one of my favorite soundtracks in a movie.
that is a good, yeah, that is a good. That's probably my
It's
favorite David O. Russell. I've not
it's
seen all of
so
his films,
good.
but
I am desperate to make a movie like that, a big
mm,
ensemble, like 70s
mm,
banging soundtrack. Like I want it, that is like I would love nothing more than to make a movie
yeah,
like that.
the five picks you've gone with are fantastic, and I mainly because I've been trying to find a reason to talk about 20th century women for ages on this channel, but I've never quite
Well, if
found the
you
right
ever
out.
want to just talk about 20th century women, I'm here for it because I always want to talk about 20th century women.
Well, I mean, I've always wanted to find like that one excuse to like just spend a whole video. I don't care how long, just a whole video talking about nothing but that film.
It's so
So
brilliant.
might be a video coming soon featuring me on it then. So because I just want to talk about like yeah, I've only seen it once, but every day when like my brain is just blank, that film will then just occupy a space, and I'm like I just remind myself like that is a bloody good film.
It's amazing. Oh, honestly, Mike Mills doesn't get the like credit or respect he
Mm,
deserves because he makes movies like every 6 years.
mm,
But they're always great. And I'm like, isn't that great that like he takes his time and he
mm.
delivers something high quality every time
Yeah,
to be Mike Mills.
yeah. To be Mike Mills.
To have that mind, I would love nothing more.
I also feel like if we both did a video just talking about 20th century women, we would like be not critiquing, but like we'd just be delving into like how the hell he made that because there's all those sequences that are like I don't even know how to describe. You know the bits I mean where like the screen
Yeah,
just goes
like
multi.
archival. Oh,
Yeah,
and the color use like with the car and stuff.
yeah, like the
Yeah.
chromatic like weird effect. Like I've always been intrigued as like they're really simple, like stylish shots, but they mean so much in the context of the film. But at the same time, I'm like, how do you do that? So the last question I want to end on before we wrap things up is just a general, short question. Is just like what films are around the corner that you're specifically looking forward to. I butchered that, but you know what I was going for.
Or most anticipated for the rest of the year. I am really looking forward to Sing Sing,
Mm,
which is an A24 film with Coleman Domingo.
mm,
Um, and that is one that I'm really looking forward to. And then there's a film that was written by Barry Jenkins, but it's directed by Rebecca Morrison.
okay.
Um, I think it's called Flint Strong, or that might be its old title. Let me, because I want to get it right. Um, but that like came on my radar when I was like writing a piece for work about like things to look like movies to look forward to.
Yeah.
Um, and that popped up and sparked my interest.
Mm.
I just need to get the name of it. It might not be called that anymore.
I feel like Barry Jenkins is like slowly creeping up with more projects now because he's got that weird Lion King prequel thing coming out.
I know, but I wish that he would like make another If Beale Street Could Talk.
I, I will admit, when it was announced, I was like, why do you have to make that? Can you just make like another proper movie again?
I support him getting his bag. I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? Get the money. You do that, and then, please come
Mm.
back to us, Barry. Right, what is it called? It is called, drum roll, please, The
Mm.
Fire Inside.
Cool. I
The Fire Inside. Rachel Morrison, sorry, not Rebecca Morrison.
okay.
Um, and it is about the story of Clarissa Shields, a boxer from Flint, Michigan, who trained to become the first woman in her country's history to win an Olympic gold medal in the sport.
Oh, that actually sounds like a really
Um,
good premise for a film. I like that.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's Rachel Morrison's directorial debut because she's a cinematographer.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, Barry Jenkins wrote it. So those two are like the ones that I'm like most
Mm.
looking out for now.
Nice, nice. I only heard, I wasn't aware Sing Sing was a thing. That rhymes. Um, I
Hmm.
wasn't aware that was a film until I think I saw someone post about it yesterday. Like they just posted the
Oh,
poster.
that's coincidental.
Yeah, like I hadn't heard of it, and then I saw the poster and I saw who was in it, and I was like, why have I not heard about this? That sounds right up my street.
Yeah, and it's like
Mm,
also formerly incarcerated actors
mm,
with him. So
yeah,
I love that they made that choice and I can't wait to see what it is.
yeah. Also, going off of that Barry Jenkins comment, I feel like he's going to become the new David Lowery, where like he will do a Disney film just to fund his next indie film. And I
I would
really,
love that.
yeah,
I honestly think everything he makes will be great. So
yeah,
I will follow. I will continue to follow.
yeah. I more, please, Barry, just make more like really good films. We'll forgive you for whatever this Mufasa film is if you just make more good
No,
films.
I trust him. I trust him to I think everything he makes is brilliant. So like I will go there. I also want to make like a Disney live action is on my
Hmm.
list.
What
The
would you?
Hunchback of Notre Dame. If they make it before me,
Okay.
I'm remaking it because
I.
in my head I have the perfect vision. I know exactly what it looks like. I'm just
Hmm.
waiting for them to like knock on my door and be like, "Here you go."
I was literally about to ask, like, what film would you remake? And
It's
I'm
The Hunchback of
I'm
Notre Dame.
surprised they've not done Hunchback yet, but
Don't be surprised. It's because they're waiting for me to be ready. I'm not ready yet, but
exactly,
like in
exactly,
5 years,
yeah,
I have the concept. I know exactly what it looks like. I just need to build up my skill set a little bit, but then I'm ready.
mm.
And that's why they've not made it. It's because they're waiting for me. I promise you. Don't worry. It's coming.
Exactly, yeah,
It's
exactly.
coming. Just wait.
Yeah, if you get the call from Disney, like just so you know, I will be happily. I will help if you need that. Just so you can be on a Disney
Sure.
set. Unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the questions. This is now your opportunity, Billy, to tell everyone where they can find you, as well as these projects. I mean, I said that the short film will be linked down below, but where can they find the work that you've worked on? Where can they find you on socials and the projects you've got coming up?
You can follow me on social media at Billie Melissa _ and everything's always there because I'm always yapping about something.
And like she said, that documentary is when's it roughly coming out?
So we have our first London screening on June 13th at Finsbury Park Picture House, and there'll be a Q&A with me and Jeremy Corbyn after
Hmm.
the film. And it's called Fighting to Live While Waiting to Die.
Cool. Okay, keep an eye out for that documentary when it comes out. I think this episode will be out one by the time that Q&A has happened. But when it is out, I will add it to the description so everyone can see it.
We're hoping to have more screenings, so
Mm, yeah.
stay in the loop and please come out and support the film because it's really important.
Yeah, please go and support it. It sounds like a genuinely fascinating subject matter to do a film on, and the more you've talked about it here, the more it's kind of not sold me to want to see it. I was already sold anyway, but it's just made me more intrigued to see how you've tackled it in the film. And again, the link to I Love You Guys is in the description. Cannot recommend it enough. It's a fantastic little short film, and all of Billy's socials will be in the description as well. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'll see you all in the next one, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye.